Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Bree.
We're the PR team
behind the Theatre Downstream.
For our 6th season, we wanted to get to know the people behind the characters. We wanted to get real. This week, Bree got to sit down with Olivia Plath, one of the 3 foley artists for Frankenstein, the radio show. Olivia talks about how her time at TTD inspired her to follow her chosen career path of stage management. She also shares her feelings about being newly defined by an Ivy League education. And she shares some truly spooky stories that have happened to her over the years.
Yay, getting real. I'm reeled in already.
So, what is your name?
Olivia.
And what character with air quotes that you can't see, do you play in the show?
I'm one of the foley artists on the show.
What does that mean?
Foley art, which you will realize the longer we're working on this project, is the creation of sound for movies or for like radio shows where you're making the sounds that represent footsteps, bone breaks, breathing, heartbeats. Because when you're recording things, you can't actually hear someone's heartbeat, so you make one. I was obsessed with this as a kid because I was like, why doesn't that... You ever watch a movie where you couldn't figure out, like, why doesn't that sound like what it really sounds like? Because I've always been sensitive to sound. And so I think it was when the internet. So it was probably when I was 14 when I finally figured it out that there were people that were making the sounds in a different place at a different time, just lining up with the movie. Because I would always get really mad when the footsteps wouldn't line up. They're right there while they're recording it. So you dive down a path and you find that, oh no, they sit in a room with a bunch of stuff and they just make noises in front of a microphone. And so when this opportunity popped up, I was like, yes, my time has come.
Also, Scotty is already here, so
I know.
you hear the purrs and the breathing.
The heavy
That's
breathing.
Definitely him. And Henry's here too.
And
so.
Henry.
So what is your day job?
Oh, my day job. Like right now, or like the hope, or what I went to school for?
Yes.
All of the above. Well, currently, I am just helping my parents out with their architecture firm. So I'm basically back to my original job in high school, which was a architect secretary, which basically means everything and anything that they want me to do. In December, I will be on my first official union gig at the Guthrie Theater as an ASM for a show in their season. So that's like a couple months away. So I'm really excited because that's what I went to school for. So stage manager by union, by title is my day job. I'm a freelance stage manager.
So tell me a funny work story, whichever way you want to take that. So stage manager.
Funny work story. So way back when we did Beauty and the Beast, I will always remember the day we had to do the lights. And I was working on the lights with Kevin. We had to do all the lights in an afternoon. And you could tell by the end of that day, we just went a little stir crazy because we were in the booth until I don't even know what time. But I remember we got to a certain point and one light shift was so funny. We were in tears on the ground. I don't know how we lived because we were laughing so hard and we couldn't breathe. But I guess that's like one of those funny moments where you just remember how much you were laughing. And that's, for me, is more important than, like, funny things that happen. Because I see funny things happen all the time. I mean, I see people forget to walk on stage, to change. And more at that moment, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And it doesn't seem funny because I'm like, I just don't understand where they are. Because I'm like, there's a million things happening right now. And you're like, what? Stop. So I can't think, because everything is funny to me, even if it's like something going wrong. Because I mean, I will still laugh at someone that slips on stage.
Oh yeah.
I make sure they're okay. But at the same time, I got to watch it happen, and it's funny. So those are like kind of the things. I'm really bad at telling funny stories, but I like funny memories or like moments that I am laughing a lot.
Yeah. What did you want to be growing up?
Oh gosh. I think my first job, and I made like a little panorama mobile for it, was I wanted to be the first vet in space, specifically.
Wow, that is uber specific.
Yeah. I was like, I love animals, and I love space. I'm going to be the first vet in space. Now, granted, I was way before my time of even now in the last 5 years, we're talking about living on different planets. So I'm like, I guess it could have happened. We're still far away from it. I don't think they'd need vets right away because who knows when animals are going to actually be able to make it to Mars. Who knows? And then after that, I think I wanted to be president. And then I was like, nah, I'm good. And then I think that was when my interest in criminology and serial killers popped in. So probably for the longest time as I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to skip the police officer part and just be the detective. And that stuck around for a long time because I actually went to school originally for criminal psychology and then realized I would never have friends and then ended up in art, which I'd always done my entire life. I was always in theater. I was always in art. I just never thought it would be a career because your parents always say, or like people always say, not just parents, it's like, gotta have, you know, that job that sustains you. And then so like you can like, there's no promise in arts. Now, granted, after how many remakes of movies, I'm kind of sad they said this to a whole generation of people. But college was a really good time to realize, like, I wouldn't trust people if I actually learned more about our psychology. So went to art. And art has always been something I've been interested in. And, you know, actor always went into, like, mine. But I didn't like... Because, I mean, I grew up when Britney Spears was big. Like, that was who our female idol was. And I used to get really mad. Because I'm like, why do the Backstreet Boys get to wear, like, funky clothes? And Britney Spears is the one that, like, why can't Britney Spears wear something like that? And just realizing the difference between, like, female fans and, like, like, female fans for male singers versus, like, the fans that usually surround female singers. Yeah. And that got me really angry, so that really turned me away from, like, fame. Was that all the jobs? I'm sure there were a few more in there, but it was... I mean, because then Foley came in, but I didn't really think that was a job. And I'm like, I don't know how I do that. How do you do it?
Tell me about your family.
So my immediate family here in Kentucky, I'm a middle child, but I grew up as the older child. I have one brother who is biologically, we're the same. And then I have an older sister who, through our guardianship and that kind of stuff, is now like she like technically is a cousin, but she is now like my older sister. I am I guess when I was 14, our guardianship changed. And so I live with my biological aunt and uncle. Yeah, that's like the immediate family, but then I have like really close, there's 5 of us cousins that are really close in age that I grew up with, so it's like extended siblings. My biological father has passed. It's been 2 years now, and my biological mother is in Minneapolis somewhere. We don't really talk much. We had a reuniting because my grandmother passed and we all gathered again, and actually the wedding, my cousin's wedding, she's the first of us to get married, was the first time in 20 years almost that we all got together, like the entire family.
Wow.
And since then I have family in DC, Washington DC that I visited, had an aunt that was up in Canada, more family in Minnesota, and family in California. Like, it's like normal big family. Like, I think you have like that core family that's really close, of course. And I have my family here with my niece and my sister and her husband. Love my niece. I love them all, but my niece is the special one in my heart. And of course, like my younger brother has his fiance now. So
I always loved like because you said you have like your core family that's like in this area, and then you have spread out, because I have spread out family too. I have family in California and everywhere. It's fun like seeing them and their core family and like going into that. It's so funny because like you can see like they're really similar, but they're completely different.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I think there was I think with social media and I think with how accessible people are all of a sudden, we're getting an interesting perspective on family that's far away, because it's weird to see family that is like just has their own life, right? But you also get to witness them growing up more with a lot, and people are less like, let's see, I think my family did a lot of letter writing about like what was happening in the family, and there was always like one person, and that was my grandma. She would find out everything. She'd be all the talking. She'd do everything, but then she'd like send a letter to all the families. And now that's kind of stopped, so there really isn't like that one person that's doing everything. And now with social media, people are just like, oh, I'll just put it on social media so everyone can see. And it's good and all, but it's like you're also not relating to them. And so even like with visiting the family in DC, it was really fun to go and experience. I just like going to places and like integrating into their lives. And it was really nice to actually go and integrate with their life a little bit, like what their day-to-day was. I appreciate the fact that you have like all the little core families and everything that happens. Yeah. I just think it's hard in a lonely time in our, world where we feel so lonely, but we are more connected than we ever have been.
Yeah.
Which is...
I saw something the other day that said this like group, like the the very end of millennials and all of Gen Z, it's going to be completely different because we're so connected. It's not like that was my best friend, but we lost touch after high school or anything.
No.
You literally can have a best friend that you stay connected to forever. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that,
I think we're already witnessing it. I think we're already seeing like a lot of people. I think people don't realize how often that people lose touch with people. Because now we're kind of in this place where we're like, we never want to lose touch. But it's a natural thing. You progress. You grow. And so I think it's interesting because I don't think people realize how important it is to have people that enter your life and leave your life because there's something to learn from that. And I think it's interesting because I think it's harder to set boundaries as well. And I think we're not yet suited for that kind of life. It's something that we can go long and long about. But I mean, that's just a portion of my family. Like my dad's side of the family is also like, we are now more connected because of social media.
Yeah.
And so I have 2 half-sisters that I met for the first time when my father passed. And they have daughters. And it's a big world, and it's almost overwhelming how much family we have access to these days. So, I mean, they're wonderful because I, as a child, didn't have much time to grow up with them or visit them. But as I've gotten older, the more connected we have gotten.
Yeah. What is your theater origin story?
Oh, my theater origin story. I think we all start in acting. I think that is just the natural progression of things. I was in a show and I was very, very young that I don't remember in Minneapolis. Don't remember much about it. I had to be a toddler, and I'm pretty sure I was a toddler. As a toddler does. And then I do remember I did like a few like acting in like a museum movie or something like that, and did a little bit of child modeling. That I ruined because I got scared of the lights. They were too bright. And then I've always just kind of done acting or theater things, but at the same time also worked on sets and stuff. So I kind of did a mixture like all through high school, especially when I got here. Of course, did middle school show, but then like high school is kind of where I picked it up again and was in a few shows. Nothing major. I was like Mrs. Darling in Peter Pan, and I don't remember her name in Guys and Dolls, but she was like the religious lady. Do not remember her name.
Nope.
I thought it was the weirdest part for me. So that was like theater there. I always worked on the sets, always painted the sets. And then I went to undergrad as a forensic psychology major and then went straight into art. And so I did a major in photography and was an acting theater minor. So I did a lot of musical theater. I acted up until the point where they did Beauty and the Beast, and I was like, I hate this show, and didn't do it. And then I didn't act in anything, and really thought about the fact that I was like, I don't want to be a dancing plate. That right there, or a fork or a napkin. Like, for whatever reason, that show and that, like, reality, because, like, I've never been the leading female role body type or look. I've always been, like, grandmothers, parents, supporting characters. Like I got to play the grandmother in Rabbit Hole, which was really fun. But that would be my life, which is fine. But I also realized I didn't want to be a dancing plate. And so I kind of had that little meltdown that you do in school. And I was going to finish, I guess within that year, and I just didn't stop auditioning for things. But I was working on the sets and everything. And then I had a teacher that was like, you'd be a good stage manager. And I was so offended when he told me that because I just remembered all the stage managers I had. Do not remember who they were. Don't know their names. I just know I didn't like them much because they were always telling me what to do. And I'm like, but you don't know what this process is. And I graduated, and that, like a month later, I stage managed my first show. It was Star Spangled Girl, and it was kind of my Neil Simon with a bunch of my friends. Yeah, no, I will always remember that show. That show had a ton of props, and that has led the way of all my shows having so many props.
Do you have a dream show or a dream role? So let's say, do you have a dream role that you would like to portray, and do you have a dream show that you would like to maybe stage manage?
I could say the only show that would probably get me back into acting would be Sweeney Todd. Because there will be a day I play Mrs. Lovett. Because that is me. I am that, like, not like everything about me, but I think I get the same, like, starry-eyedness for, like, the people that are starry-eyed to me. Mm-hmm. And her relationship with Sweeney is just exactly that, like, how far I would go. Now, granted, I'm not really sure I'll cook people into pies, but it's also really fun to play a really dark character. Yeah. I love that part so much. That would be the only part that would make me go, I'll act again. Because I have really very little interest in acting, unless, there's really little unless. I don't even think there's a movie I'd want to be in. I'm just like, no, I'm past it. I've seen Behind the Curtain. I just want to work there now. Mm-hmm. A show I'd like to stage manage. It's kind of hard because, like, now that it's become work, I'm kind of fine to do whatever because they're paying me. Of course, there's going to be passion projects that, like, I'd like to do, and hopefully there'll be a time that I can do that, and there's a little bit of flexibility that I would. I really love new plays, and so I think I'd like to work on someone's passion project that they're really passionate about and that has, like, a true meaning behind it and everything. Because it's not that I just act and stage manages. I did end up directing a show, and I really enjoyed that, too, because the playwright was also a really close friend to me at the school. And he usually writes shows that are very, very, like, gritty and, like, words that are so long that I'm like, I don't know what this means. But he wrote a show that had something that was so beautiful about just empathy and humanity between people, like when they reach, like, the end of the world kind of thing, that really inspired me to work on it in any capacity. And that ended up being, like, as director. Originally, I was supposed to stage manage, but it needed a director, and I was like, I think I could do that. And so, I don't know. The list of shows I don't want to work on is a lot shorter. And so I wouldn't want to work on Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, because I think that's an awful show. I think it's stupid. And that's just literally, sorry to the person that wrote it. I don't like it. It's too long. There's one good song. And that's my opinion, but not everyone has to share it. And I think that's kind of it. I think that's the only show I would be like, how much are you paying me? But it probably isn't enough. I'm kind of game, because every show is different and every experience is different. And I'm there for more for the experience and the people than usually the text of the show.
What is your history with the Theatre Downstream?
Goodness, my history at the Theatre Downstream. It first was just, like, I think mentioned off-put by my friend Rachel, saying that she was part of a group that was starting a theater together. And that was literally my first encounter with it. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. But I also knew there's a lot of, like, community theaters, like, around town and everything like that. But nothing that really, I don't know, it just wasn't something that, I was excited, but it wasn't something that was like gung-ho. But I wasn't really gung-ho about anything either. And I also didn't know most of the people starting the project. Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Yay. Awesome. Great job. I don't know. I ended up working on a show in Louisville. I think the Holiday Homecoming show came up and they needed a stage manager. And I had just finished, ASMing Steel Magnolias in Louisville, and then worked on a very short-lived Bingo, the musical, which is actually a really fun musical. And I think it was pretty quickly that I was like, you need a stage manager? I'd stage manage. I'm still learning a lot, but if you're okay with that, I'd happily do it. And yeah, me with my little iPad came in and we did Holiday Homecoming. I only came in for, like, the show, I think. I wasn't there for the rehearsals, I don't think I was there for the rehearsals on both holiday shows, mind you. So I was only there for, like, tech and performance. Fine. I just thought it would happen. I don't for me to be able to do it. Because, like, the second time for Holiday Homecoming 2, I was working on Rumors. Oh. And then came in straight to do that. I think the true origin story lies, though, in when I remember them talking about, I think we're going to do Beauty and the Beast. And that's a huge undertaking. And they're like, will you stage manage? And I'm like, Beauty and the Beast? You mean the show that I didn't even want to audition for? Are you kidding? We started the undertaking of Beauty and the Beast, and that was the wildest. That wasn't very long either.
9 weeks.
That was 9 weeks for Beauty and the Beast. And I was helping out with props, and that's when I realized that show had a million props that only appeared once on stage. Just once. That big tree that knocks down the castle's gates. Mm-hmm. Just once. You know how long it took to make the tree? Alas, fun challenge. But, you know, it was probably the best. It's still one of the top experiences I've ever had working on a show, because Ashley was right. And I will say this in recording.
She's so proud of herself.
That I did end up loving the show by the end of the process. And I remember on opening night, just kind of like we got to the end somehow, because I didn't even know if, like, when we started, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna make it to the end, but we're gonna definitely try. This behind the scenes stuff. And I mean, there were so many things that were just kind of out of my hands that were just kind of like, everyone just needs to tune in, and everyone tuned in. And that was such a fun experience, because I remember the lights going down at the very end, and there was like a breath, and then clapping started, and when the lights came back up, everyone was already standing.
That was amazing.
And it was such an amazing experience.
I don't think
on
that's
that.
ever happened again.
No.
Because no one expected it.
Yeah.
So after that show, people started to expect it.
Yeah.
But I remember on opening night, I couldn't even go out there and watch, but opening night, we snuck out there to watch the Be Our Guest number.
Yeah.
And the actors on stage felt like they felt like they weren't getting any response. They thought, they're not doing anything. They're not. But
They were just taking it in.
They were gobsmacked with the spectacle.
Yeah.
And you could see the people in the chairs just like, what is happening?
Yeah, like, how did they do this?
How did they do this? The guy running the sound was like, he missed some cues because he was so gobsmacked with what was
Everything
going on.
came together. It was one of those, like, those, you
Kismet.
can't even put it together. You can't even plan these things. They're like theater magic things that just happen. And they just have to get there. And there has to be enough blood, sweat, and tears to get there. And laughs. I'm going to add that to my list. It's not just blood, sweat, and tears. It's also laughter, because a lot of laughter was had during that film. Because, like, just, it was a community of people that came together. Like, there really should have been a documentary about it, honestly. Because, like, just thinking about every experience on that show and, like, who I got to know, friends that I have, like, I'm not going to say never. There are some friends that I do have from a long period, but I've not had a group of people that I have been friends with that we just still all kind of show up for each other, or are very invested in each other's lives and really excited for each other. Never had that kind of group. And for the first time, even like with a theater group, I was experiencing that with a group of people that I just never would have thought. Because even auditions were fun. And I mean, there are even people during auditions that I was like, why aren't you auditioning? And they're like, because so-and-so is auditioning. And I'm like, you should audition too. It's for everyone. And it was so much fun, because I think if you grow up, since I've always been involved in theater, I think what was so special about that is I think with the Theatre Downstream, I've never experienced being, I guess, a little bit older, because that always makes you a little bit more aware of anything. And it was the first time, I think, as an adult, because I got to come in with a little bit of experience, which made me feel really, really excited that they trusted me to work on a show this big. It's a big show, no matter where you do it. It's huge. Like, we were renting costumes, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. A lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. I had people helping.
I think you're
I don't think I had an official assistant. But I got to witness people that had never done theater before do theater for the first time. After, a lifetime, and like being an adult, like adults having the experience of like what theater is,
right.
That made me realize how much I loved what theater is for people, because it is the allowance for people to play, and it is allowing people to experience emotions they would never think to experience. And no matter where you go, like theater people, you get theater people. They're gonna be a little weird. They're gonna be really funny. They're gonna really like food and late nights.
And they're probably going to be loud.
And they're probably going to be loud or quiet, or there's a variety. But the biggest thing is, like, there's always a joy that you have, and a little bit of, like, there's no way to, those good nights. Like, you remember all the nights you were laughing so hard that you just don't experience on the day-to-day. And so seeing that release from people that had never experienced it, and seeing, like, adult people like, oh, this is kind of fun. I think I met my people. And I'm like, they are always there. But there's something so special about that show, just like for how much it gave people as like a purpose. No matter where they went to work, what they did during their day to day, there was this passion to be in this space and just creating something. And that was really what sold it for me and was like my origin story for the Theatre Downstream, because that show was like life-changing. It inspired me to apply to school. It gave me a group of people that I love being able to come back to and see what they're doing and come back and do something like this, because it's awesome to see like the theater thrive and now produce work that like people are writing and the people still showing up and doing something because they love it. Now granted, I mean, everything changes and everything evolves, but it still has that same heart. So I guess I'll stop that as the origin story, but that's Cutie and the Beast is here. I mean, I have a tattoo of a freaking rose on my arm now because of that show.
So you said that Beauty and the Beast inspired you to apply to school. So where did you end up applying to?
Okay. So when I was finally inspired to apply to school, because I remember stage managing my first show and going, oh God, I don't want to go back to school right now. And so I did like one quick Google search, and it was just like, at that time, it was like, oh, you can go to grad school for stage management if you have X amount of experience in like the real world. And so I was like, great, I will do as much as I can on my own. But then after Beauty and the Beast, which I gave myself 5 years outside of school to really figure it out. And I was at year 3 when Beauty and the Beast happened. And so I ended up applying. I think I only applied to Oklahoma and was going to apply to Columbia and Irvine in California. So I had like the resume ready, I had the application ready, I had the statement of purpose, I had it all ready. And was like, okay, I sent it off to those schools and got a interview immediately with Oklahoma. And then, because I was just like one more Google search, whatever, I was Googling, I'm like, what has a specifically stage management curriculum? And Yale School of Drama had one. And because I already had everything ready, I was just like, what's the worst that can happen? Now, granted, I grew up watching Gilmore Girls. Yale was my dream school, no matter what, but I just never had I never in my child mind or, young adult mind felt that I was ever going to be smart enough for a place like that, and went, just apply. Like, the worst that can happen is you're out $100 and you have to take the GRE, which you have to take anyways. And I did it, and I applied one night at like 2 a.m, just without really thinking about it, and then forgot about it. And like 2 months later, I got a call from New Haven, Connecticut. And I was like, what is in New Haven, Connecticut? And I'm just sitting here I worked at a distillery for a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, Yale. Yale's in New Haven, Connecticut. And I answered the phone. And the lovely Lori Coppola was like, hi, we'd like to invite you to come interview at Yale School of Drama for the stage management. And I just went, you're kidding. No, what? And she's like, yeah, I mean, do you have time? It's going to be like Saturday at the end of this week. And I'm like, Saturday at the end of this week? Or it might have been, there, right? Yeah. No, I didn't have to fly. I didn't fly. I drove. I had to finish like a week's worth of work in like 2 days and then drive.
Oh my gosh.
It was like the end of the week. And I told her, I was like, I have rehearsal, because I was working on Melancholy play at that time. And she kind of laughed, and she's like, I'm pretty sure they'll let you go from rehearsal. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, I'm going to check my schedule book. She's like, well, call back soon because we have other people to call. And I hung up. And then I sat there for like a minute going, you are so stupid. And just called her right back and said, yes, I will be there on Saturday. And then called my mom, just bawling. I think I was having a really bad day too. So it was like always on those really extraordinary bad days. Like I was having to do like hard labor, which is not like something I hate, but like on that day. And so I called my mom. I was like, we have to get to New Haven at the end of the week. And she's like, what do you need to do? I'm like, I guess I have to do a week's worth of work tonight. And I did it. And then she rearranged her work and everything. And I think that Thursday, we started I think it's a 13-hour drive up to New Haven, Connecticut. We've never been to New Haven. We never have driven around New York, ever. And we got there on Friday, and I remember just being like so tired when we got there, I just passed out. But like the first day, like I got to go to like classes and stuff on that Friday and see a show, and like got to go to coffee and everything with the current students, and that was so much fun, like just sitting in. I mean, I will not say names, but I saw someone who has been in a big motion picture that day in the rehearsal room rehearsing Hamlet. So went up there, had a day where I got coffee, went to a class, went to a rehearsal, and then my mom and I got to go see a show. And like, I think I fell asleep during the show because honestly, I was so overwhelmed that day. And then I had the interview the next morning. And I remember being dropped off the next morning outside the building that I now know so well. I actually met both or two of the other students that same day that ended up getting in my year. And then Abby was the mysterious one that we none of us had met because she had interviewed like a week prior. Got dropped off at the same time as my friend John and met Christina. She had already interviewed that morning, but met Christina the day before and had an interview. It went really well. I was just so overwhelmed and just like nervous because like I knew I was coming in with like a big lacking in undergrad experience. And I was specifically going to school to fill in all the gaps because I knew I understood people and I knew I understood shows. I just didn't know like who did what. Mm-hmm. What was what? Like, what were the big names? What is required to work on shows that are on Broadway, basically, is like were the gaps I wanted to fill. And just to improve my craft, basically, just improve on my craft. And I remember leaving that interview, texting my mom, and I walked over to a coffee shop called Book Trader. And then for 3 years, I had to walk by the spot. I just cried for like 10 minutes straight, just in front of people, just like at this little weird little corner, trying to stay out of the way, just crying because I think all the tension had built up. And then we left that day because I didn't want to go to like another rehearsal or I don't think they had classes. And we left that afternoon and like we were watching the sunset as we were driving. And I remember just sitting in the car going, you know, if that was my Yale experience, I am happy. I literally did everything that I could. Like, I couldn't think of anything else that I didn't leave on the table there. I've never done anything. I've honestly never worked for anything that hard in my life. Mm-hmm. Never. Because I always am I'm always very aware of, like, failure is not bad, but I'm not always happy with the results. But I always make the most of it. Mm-hmm. But I know I've never put that much work into something. And we got home. Everything kind of went back to normal. And then the Sunday rehearsal, we were in there and then we got another call from New Haven. And I was like, oh God, I can't. I can't. And answered the phone and I was like, oh, sorry, it's New Haven. And they're like, go, go, go. So I went out, I was like, hello. And it was Mary Hunter. And she's like, hi, Olivia, we'd love to invite you in this like next class of, class of 2019 stage management. And again, I said, you're kidding. And she's like, I wouldn't kid about something like this. And I was like, oh, no, I know. What? Yes, absolutely. Just lost it. And she kind of chuckled and she's like, be expecting an email soon and everything. And we're really excited to see you this fall. And I walked back in and I was just like, I got in and the room just kind of exploded. And it's still one of my favorite moments, you know? It's like, and the thing is, like, that wouldn't have happened if I just didn't work on a show that I didn't like, only to be proved wrong and make mistakes and learn along the way and then work for something just like a little bit harder than like expecting the worst. And yeah, and now 3 years later, I am back. Feels like it didn't happen because that's apparently what happens when you leave New Haven. You're like, was that a dream? Did that really happen? I do have a thesis that I still need to finish. That is the only reminder that I was once there, which will happen and be done. And they'll officially send me my diploma. But yeah, no, that could be a whole other podcast. I don't want to get too far into it, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I still feel like I'm just a more refined version of the person that left. Like, I really hope that I haven't changed that much. I don't feel like I have. I feel like the experiences in my life have changed a lot, and like just due to exposure, I have a different perspective on a lot of things now. And honestly, the thing that I think I have the biggest complex over is that when I got in, my mom told everyone, like, doesn't matter if we knew them or not, doesn't matter. And I actually had to revoke her. Like, I'm like, you don't have permission to tell anyone. And she's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, I can. You do it. Nope. I revoke your permission. Because she told, it didn't even matter before hello, Olivia got into Yale. And I'm like, they don't care. They actually don't. Like, I know this. Like, most people don't actually care about what you do. Yes, it's exciting. I have been incredibly excited and privileged and honored to be able to attend Yale School of Drama. But now I find it, the weirdest thing now is I didn't realize it was going to become my name or how people greet me afterwards. Because, I mean, of course, as time goes on, you know, new people kind of rotate in. And you are having first, like, impressions with people that have actually heard a lot about you because of where you're going and because of the group that you left. Because that's what happens. And so I personally get very thrown off sometimes when people are like, oh, here's the educated one, or oh, or something like, yeah, or something like that. Because I'm like, what? Because I forget. Like, I'm like, I went to school. And I think it's awesome. And I think it's a great school. But it's almost a weird experience to come in where now that's before my name, if people know. And it's also kind of strange when people ask, because, I mean, I even had an experience in Minneapolis when I was working a summer ago where I was at this really cool, like, improv group and would love the experience of working with, like, an improv group, because that's a lot of, like, work on your feet really, really quick. And it comes down to, like, you're introducing yourself and you're talking, and they're like, oh, what are you doing now? I'm like, oh, I'm in school. They're like, oh, where'd you go? Or where are you going? And I'm like, oh, it's a place in New Haven. Trying not to make it, like, as big a deal, because if you just, like, drop Yale on the table, they're like, either you can tell. Like, people get really like, oh, well, you're fancy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not. I definitely, like, I'm not from, like, I know there's certain people that go to Yale that you would call fancy. I am not one of those people. I grew up here in a very different situation. I worked really hard to get in. It's Yale School of Drama. So I'm not saying, like, I didn't go to medical school at Yale, which is also very hard to get into. But, like, I think there's a big difference of, like, which school that you go to. Not that it's not hard, but I think when you come in with something with such a big weight to the title, it makes life a little strange, because, like, now there's an impression that people have of you before they even get to know you.
Yeah.
Which I really want to change that. I want to change that assumption. And if I have to work a little harder to do that, to make people realize, I'm like, yeah, no, I just really love what I do, and I worked really hard and was greatly rewarded. But that doesn't mean that's not something you can do. If I could go to a place like Yale, you can absolutely go to a place like Yale. Because I'm not saying, like, I'm smart in my own way. I'm not book smart by any means. But I am very good at picking things up, and I'm very good at dedicating myself to something. So that's, in a nutshell, where I went to school. Yale School of Drama, class of 2019, with a bunch of lovely, wonderful people. So I am part of the same class that Jeremy O. Harris was in. And right now he's booming on everything, because he just opened a Broadway show on, like, a show on Broadway that he wrote.
Yeah.
Granted, we weren't super close, but, like, it's really weird to open BuzzFeed and see an article about them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the fun stuff too, because you kind of get to name drop a little bit, not too much, but, like, I'm also very excited for everyone. I mean, I have two friends that are actors that are doing amazing things. I have two friends working for Disney now. It's, like, really cool it was really cool to be part of a group of people that all really, really loved what we did. And I'm just excited that I get to bring part of that back, because even being there, nothing compares to, like, the community that I have here. Right. And the first group of people that really, really believed in me. Because,
really
well, I mean, it's true. Like, I would not think I would be any good, like, I would not be good enough to do something if someone else believed in me first. I am the last person to believe in myself, sadly, and I'm working on it. But it does take, like, someone else. I mean, I didn't know I was going to be a good stage manager. Took a teacher to tell me, he's like, no, you're too bossy to be an actor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I dislike you so much right now. That's an insult. But now look at me. I'm a stage manager that tells people what to do. But at the same time, I like the fact that I can take the experience I have in acting, the experience I have in working on sets, and the experience I have in art alone, and actually art school and, you know, designers. No different. I know how to talk to a designer. It's like talking to any other of the art students. And I won't go into many details besides that. But I'm like, I am able to talk to all of these people and understand them. And every step that has happened in my life, now granted I am 30, did I expect to go to grad school and be like out at 30? Because like, did I want to be like president by 30? Absolutely. But I had to realize that everything happens at the time it needs to happen to be ready for it. So it doesn't matter how old you are.
So, moving on to Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
What is your favorite version of the show?
Oh my gosh. National Theater.
Was it the Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Matt's favorite.
It's so good. Now this is gonna be good too. I'm not like, it's not taken away, but I remember seeing the trailer for National Theater Live Frankenstein, where Benedict Cumberbatch and Johnny Lee Miller were switching as the roles of like the creature and the doctor, and I was like, what? And then like in the trailer they had rain on stage, and I was like, what? And they had so many things. They came out of like a womb thing, and I was like,
What?
I remember that.
all of it. I remember sitting there watching it, and I'm already like a humongous fan of National Theater Live. Like, I know they'll never listen to this. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe someone will. I would love to work for National Theater Live one day. The first time, I read Frankenstein when I was a kid, because I read a lot. And I really, really loved it. Pretty sure I saw a movie, but I watched a lot of movies, so I don't always remember which movies I've watched. Really liked when Frankenstein had a wife. I liked those movies because I thought she was really cool. And then I saw the National Theater Live, and then because they had two different versions, I have seen the Benedict Cumberbatch as the creature 3 times. Now, I didn't mean to see it 3 times, but I would always go when they had the switch, and they always failed to play the one with the switch. I would even call the movie theater because I would be driving for like 2 hours. And I'm like, are you sure this is the one with Johnny Lee Miller as the creature? And they'd go, yes. And then I'd get
quietly.
there. I would, because they were like, who calls ahead and acts that crazy? And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm driving 2 hours. Like, I want to see the right version of the movie. And I'd get there and it started. Now, granted, I wasn't mad because I still liked it, but I was like, I still haven't seen Johnny Lee Miller as the creature.
What do you think will be tough about bringing a radio show to the stage?
Oh, goodness. I think we have a lot of planning to do. I think with the casting, I'm so jealous of all their voices because they sound so pretty. They're going to have a lot of fun trying to find the balance between like just voice acting versus like stage acting, which is very different. I think the Foley team has a lot of research to do because rereading and reading again, and as I'm charting it along, I'm like, how are you going to make this sound? That's a lot of sound that's supposed to happen right here, right now. Like, do we have enough hands? I don't even know. So right now, that's like what I can predict. The minute I found out that I would be working on Foley, I immediately went back into the script and like highlighted everything and then like broke it down into the crazy organizational thing that I like to do with every show, where I kind of like, it's a section for like, who's going to do it? What is it? What can we use to make that sound? Because trust me, there are a few of the big ones I was like, no clue. So I think it's going to be an interesting challenge because it is a short amount of time. I think it's unassumingly big. But this is just from an outsider's perspective too. I was like, I think it's definitely doable, and I know it is, but I just don't think it's sunk in yet of like how big it is and how like epic we want it to be. So I think the epicness is probably going to be the challenge because we're going to be really out of our comfort zone.
What do you think the audience is going to be thinking about in the car as they drive home from the show?
I really hope that for my weird special thing is I hope people listen to the story of Frankenstein, because beyond all the trauma and that this family goes through, it really comes from a lack of empathy for... Sorry. That should be the door opening day. Can we borrow your chair?
But I knew I needed, my back hurt so bad, I was like, I have got to lean back. So we can recreate it. We're doing Foley right now.
I love it. Literally,
go in the
Foley. Yeah, it's gonna stay in. That's great. We need to actually use that for the door. you're on the team. We're taking it. Your chair is going to theater.
Oh man.
Okay.
Oh, my back feels so much better now.
I always sit.
I pre-apologized. I was like, sorry.
It's good. I sit so straight that I never
I do
actually get
too.
back pain when I'm sitting.
Like, I remember I went on a date with this guy one time, and he goes, "Are you really that tall?" Because I was in the car, I was driving. I was like, "No, I just sit really straight."
Yeah, you have to sit straight in the car. When people are like laying down, I'm like, how do you see? I really hope people take. I mean, I know my impression of the story is I always felt bad that the monster was never, or the creature was never understood, because all these people had these assumptions about it. And with rereading it, I'm so curious of the fact that Frankenstein really actually wanted it to be smart and like him from the very beginning. You had a kid, or you knew people that had kids. Like, I don't know how he couldn't recognize.
He had a little sister.
He had a little sister, exactly. So I've always been, like, with rereading, I'm like, I'm so surprised that this intelligent man was just so convinced that he could create a man that would be at the state and intelligence that he was, using dead bodies, mind you. So let's start there.
Dead bodies of men. Cool.
Yes, but then to like, because it's so different than what a scientist I would believe a scientist would do, and I would really hope people leave with the thought of like what they are assuming. And take a closer look, because the show is really about this creature that does try to be part of humanity, and just because of misunderstandings, what? You're laughing
Because you were talking, and I was like, if someone came in right now, they wouldn't know if we were talking about Frankenstein or the Little Mermaid.
Oh, that's true. That is true. But there are so many stories that are about that. But think about it. There are a lot of stories that are like that, and I think it's interesting. And I mean, I think
She's dying.
I know but it is true. You wouldn't put Little Mermaid and Frankenstein together, but it's telling the same story. Is that maybe we should take a little bit more time and empathize. But I'm on a really big empathy kick right now, where I'm like, if we're gonna survive, we gotta empathize a little bit. But I mean, I hope people are a little spooked. It's gonna be the season, my favorite season, Halloween season. Mm-hmm. And yes, I hope they get a little scared. I hope they're thinking like, wow, I forgot how cool radio shows are. Mm-hmm. Like, I hope that's part of the response. I hope they're excited about like just the shift and a little bit of a change that the theater is taking, where it's like, we can do radio shows. Not only can we do shows that people write from our own community, we can do big shows, we can do musicals, we can do, if you want to write a play and it's good enough, you can do it. If you want to write a radio show or request a radio show, that can happen too, because like that's what theater can do. It's like adaptable for what is doable. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess that weird.
Look at her go.
On the inside, I feel a lot more awkward than I feel like I am portraying.
You were not awkward.
Okay.
What do you see as your strengths and your weaknesses with theater?
I think my strengths are, I'm a really good empathizer, just to pull that back in. I am surprisingly organized for things that aren't really related to my life. So like, my life is a mess, but trust me, that show is going to be organized. I love people. I think people are fascinating, and I think you really need to love people if you're going to work with people in theater. You gotta love them, because you know what? Yeah. You're gonna get upset. People are gonna get mad at you. You're gonna be like, why in the world did they do that? And you're gonna sit there and just like think about why. But you're gonna think about it for a while, and you're going, I know, I love this person. I have chosen to love this person. I will try to figure it out. And my weaknesses are, I probably am a little bit too optimistic for my own good. But I think it's a strength. And I think it's like catch-22. I don't know if I'm using that in the right way, but I think my optimism is a great strength, because I know that just based off of like, oh, it's okay, let's keep doing. Like, even if it's a mistake, I'm like, okay, it's okay, let's do it. Like, has helped a lot of people just to do it and get over the fact that a mistake was made. But at the same time, I trust people very, very easily. I'm very optimistic that everyone is there for the same reason.
What makes this show unique?
It's a radio show. It's going to be on stage as a radio show. I don't think it's new, because radio shows are definitely not new, but I think it's nostalgia. I think it's very nostalgic, and I think my dad is so excited because that was his favorite thing growing up, was radio shows. He's like, it's a radio show. And my mom's like, no, it's a play. And he's like, no, it's a radio show play. And I'm like, you're both right. It's a play because it's a radio group doing Frankenstein on stage as a radio show. So I mean, it's a fun, and I think it's a fun, unique play, and it's interesting that they did it. And I think more than anything, it's like the nostalgia and the season, and a really good story that has held up because it is so good.
If you could wave a magic wand and change any one thing about the theater industry, what would you change?
Oh gosh, the thing is the things that drove me crazy, like just me personally, that drove me crazy with any like community theater or anything else, honestly, still happens when you have shows that are putting on shows that cost like more than a house. And like seeing some of the numbers and budgets for like Broadway shows and everything, like I saw the numbers and I'm like, you had that much money and this is what you put up? Are you kidding? I don't know what it is. If I knew exactly what it is, like right now I'm just on the kick that it's like collaboration and empathy. I think we have lost the way to communicate with each other because we're so invested in what we are doing and what we need to do, that we're losing the beautiful part of theater, which is community and working together and problem solving.
So
and
people are more out for themselves than for
yeah, it's no longer, it doesn't feel like it's about like the group project of it. It feels a little bit like everyone's kind of in it doing what they need to do, and that's it. So yeah, I don't know, like I wish I knew the specific that I would use. I'm gonna save my magic wand like for a little bit because like I still see the same issues no matter where it is. And I think it's about just having empathy for each other, but does empathy like a lot of people counter back, it's like, does empathy belong in the workplace? And I'm like, I think it is, because that's where we spend most of our time besides sleep. So I don't know, I'm gonna save it until I figure it out.
Okay, all right, do that.
My rules. So sorry.
In the spirit of the spooky season, give me your best scary story. It could be fictional, non-fictional, happen to you, happen to somebody else.
Paranormal, spooky, something. There's so much, because like I live in the haunted house in Shelby County, basically. Like that is the house I live in, that everyone calls it the haunted house. When I was working for my parents, as I did a full circle to, once again, this was back in high school, I would make copies of the architectural drawings out in the trailer, because that's where their office was originally, and they had one of those big ammonia copiers. And so I usually did it at night because it would be happy after I finished homework. I'd go out and I'd just make the copies and everything, and my dad had come, like he'd already been back in the house, and so I went out and did it, walked there just fine, was there for maybe 40 minutes, and then came back, and we had an unfinished deck at the point, and there was about I don't even know how long it was, like a 20 foot walk from the trailer to the house, and about halfway is where that deck was, like just starting. And I remember getting all the way to the end of the deck, and like that moment where all sound disappears, and then like the hair on my arm stood up, and I was very aware that something was staring at me, and I was like, I don't know what this is.
It is too late to be talking about this right now.
It's so great. And I was just like, what? And out of the corner of my eyes, and mind you, it is dark outside. Like, there's no, like, it is dark. We live out in, like, the country. And between, there's, like, a little shed and the trailer, there's, like, a little gap. And in the corner of my eye, there is something darker than darkness. It is just pitch black. And I see it. And in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, I can't run. And I just go as slowly as I can. I walk up to the house. And you know what? For whatever reason, when I get that scared, Linkin Park plays in my head. Specifically because it's like, I don't know, the music that I'm going to run to, like, save my life to. And it was the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It just, like, started playing in my head. And I walked inside, and I closed the door, and I stopped. My dad is just sitting in the kitchen. Why? I don't know. He turns to me, and he's like, so you saw it too? And I was like, what? You let me go out there with something out there? There's something between the shed and the trailer. Why would you let me go out there? He's like, I didn't know it was real.
You let me go out there?
I'm like, and you let me go out there? But to be fair, like, I have seen things that...
Usually if you do see stuff, I've heard it's in the peripheral.
Yeah,
like,
only.
If you turn to look, you don't see it.
Yeah, only.
Always.
And granted, like, we both had our experiences where, like, I know I grew up in that, like, on that farm where, I mean, I've seen, like, a fox, like from, like, the barn, like, walk up. And I know it wasn't, like, a real fox. Like, my imagination has always been very active, but that was, like, a little too real. Like, that was too much of a body experience. I mean, I flop sweated. I was just, like, I didn't think I was gonna die, but I was, like, my body's preparing for something right now. And we have no idea what it was. Like, we did not open the house. Like, we didn't open the door.
I'm getting so many war flashbacks right now because of this story.
And it was just like all of it. I was just like kind of wiped it from my memory, which is why I didn't think about it. But then I was like, no, that's a good one. Because like we think it was like a bear or something that had escaped.
Sure, a demon bear?
We don't know. I thought it was the Grimm from Harry Potter because it was like a big black.
It was probably a shadow man.
I don't know.
Those are blacker than black. They're darker than
What, like
darkness.
Slender Man?
Yeah, kind of.
No, it wasn't tall. It was
they're like these things that are darker than
yeah, it's a
darkness.
Grimm.
Yeah.
Big old dogs. Like we don't know what it was, but it was between the trailer and like it's like we have one light in that yard. The dogs weren't even barking.
Nope.
The dogs were alive.
They were like, nope.
The dogs, they were looking because I remember looking and they were just staring at something.
They were saying we had
And I mean, no crickets, no frogs, no
That happened to me one
nothing.
night. I was in there editing, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had the window open because it was warm, and there was night. I love the sound of the cicadas and stuff at night, and all of a sudden it just went.
It's awful.
And I got up, I closed the window, and I went into my room, and I pulled the covers over my head.
That's all you can do because I remember like I was
I
so.
just got up, I was like, okay, and I just closed the window.
You're walking me out today.
Oh, I'll walk out there. Yeah, no, I'm fine. Like I'm if someone else is more scared than I am, I will actually like be able to handle it. But like I remember I have one more actually if we have time for it. Cause
Are you kidding? We're only at 2 hours.
I know. This is like all like flashbacks of like childhoods. Who knew? Like, just get a group of people together on the same wavelength. We're good. Like, let's go. Yeah, that one was probably the worst because I've never been that scared in my life since then. Like, I don't think I've ever been that. I mean, that experience, I was like, nope, that tops it. Like, I'm like that. If I reach that level of scared, I have been like face to face with like wild animals.
Did I
and
tell
not
you
been
about
that
the
scared.
orb that I think I saw?
No.
In the backyard?
No, an orb?
I don't know if Ben Fabish remembers this or not, but we
Ben
were
Fabish.
doing something here for No Less Cause when we were filming, and I just glanced outside and I saw this, what I thought was a lantern.
Oh, God.
Someone with a lantern.
Yeah,
like if they
walking.
were walking.
Yeah.
And it was this light that was going up and down. So you're like, oh, there's somebody in the backyard. This before I knew what those were.
Yeah.
There's somebody in the backyard. So he goes out there and he's like looking at my flashlight. There was no one there. But Ben and I are at that bedroom window. And we're both like looking at like, and I ended up learning about orbs.
Yeah.
I saw it.
No, it's wild. And honestly,
Orbs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked at Waverly Hills for 3 years. So I have lots of stories.
Love it. You just do a podcast about scary stories. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
I won't get into them tonight because I'm totally scared that, like, if I speak it, things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm pretty sure things followed me home.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and like seeing, like I talk about it freely because I was a kid. There was a fox. Like there was like this. I knew it wasn't a real fox. It didn't have the right colors, and you could only see it in the corner of your eyes. And so like every once in a while you just like kind of see it go, but for whatever reason whatever that was fine. Now granted there's a demon cat that tortured me when I was like a child, but like I knew seeing that fox, it was fine. I just call it a fox. I don't know what it was. And it still like pops up I'm pretty sure I saw it last night when I was walking to like the bathroom and like in our kitchen, like the lights were down and there's like a little like part and I remember seeing something hunched there and we don't have any pets in the house anymore. And I remember just like walking by and seeing it and then going, cool. This is my favorite. This was like with all the cousins. We'd only spent summers in Kentucky growing up. I sound smart.
Oh, wait a minute.
This is why I went to Yale right here. Whew. And we were all in what is now my niece's room. So it's like the corner room on the back of the house. And we had like a little day bed by the wall. And then we had like another bed. But that's the closet that goes up to the attic is in that closet. And so it's a big walk-in closet and everything. Now, granted, did we hype each other up? Probably. We had two of the girls in the bed. I was in the day bed. My brother was on a cot at the end of the bed. And we knew Auntie and Uncle were out in the trailer working. And this is when they had like a cool little intercom, like phone. And so we were in there and we were like kind of like freaking each other out, and we turned the light off, and then it sounded like something hit the door. And we were like, who threw a shoe? Who threw something? And we're like, no one. And we're like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Like, of course we didn't. And we're like, okay, well, don't do it. That's rude and it's scary. And then we turned the light off, and we're just all like really, really quiet. And then all of a sudden there was another like boom. I'm sorry, Scotty. And stop snoring. And so we turned the light back on. I'm like, guys, seriously, don't do that. It's rude. Like, don't throw something. It's really scary. I mean, we're like 7 to like, I don't know, 5 or like, some age range of like under 10. And I was probably 10, and then the rest were younger. So we turn the light off again, and it sounds like it's getting louder. And so we turn the light back on. And, like, we all get on the daybed, which is on the, like, so, like, the door out of the room is right here. The door to the closet is, like, right next to it. And so we're on the daybed on the opposite side.
Closets are evil.
They are. On the opposite side of the room, and we're all, like, huddled, like, in a line. And we turn the, like, light, and the minute that light got turned off, it sounded like a ton of bowling balls were just thrown at that door, and we saw it jiggle. Now, granted, we saw it jiggle as we had our butts out of that room as fast as I don't think our feet touched the floor, because we were like down the house and like on the intercom, just like wailing into like the intercom for our parents. So our parents had to come in, or our aunt and uncle had to come in and like settle us down, because like we saw it rattle and it looked like a light came on. We couldn't sleep in that room for like the rest. I actually think that's probably why that was my brother's room when we were in high school, and that's probably why he didn't sleep in there. So like we had a lot of stuff happen throughout our, like, always, constantly. So like I'm not, like, I love the feeling of being scared, and so like I guess that's why I'm kind of fond of it. I'm like, oh, this is fine, but like
I love the unknown.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
It's so
Except,
good.
and like with like spooky stuff like that, like I swear. I sound stupid even saying it, and I think that I sound stupid. I swear that there's a little bit of a medium in me, but I'm so scared of knowledge that I don't.
No, you don't want to.
I don't want to tap into that.
No,
because I don't want to know what I don't know.
No, absolutely. It's ignorance is bliss, because the more you, I mean, it's like there are things that we know that we don't really get an option to. I'm really good at reading feelings. Like, I'm such an empath that like I don't want to learn more about it, because like I can tell when someone has like a pain somewhere, because I will feel that pain. I can usually tell the temperature, the attitude of anyone in the room, like from the beginning, is very, there's even times where like I have to be very careful with the emotions that I have, because I don't know if it's my emotion or what I want, or if it's someone that has a stronger like ego than I do. I have a very like mutable ego where I'm like, I'm fine. I'm pretty neutral with most things. I don't really have opinions that I need to be right with. And so like there's like, even with, I mean, it was crazy when like with relationships where I'm like, I don't like this person, but when I'm around them, I'm like, this person's awesome. But it really is how they are feeling like about me versus how I feel about them. Yeah. And I mean, I even went to a psychic and they were like, you do not need to go in and learn anything more about it, because it's just going to drive you crazy. Yeah, I mean, ignorance is bliss, but it also, like, who knows who it could help.
Exactly, and that's like where I'm torn, because like there was this one medium that I watched, and she says that like God gave her this gift for a reason. She's speaking to people for a reason. And I'm like, okay, so then like there's that side of it, but like there's a world I don't know about, and that's because I wasn't invited. So like stop trying to invite me.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's like even an invitation. I think it's something that it just is like you just have a link. You don't have an explanation. Like, I look at this, my morals in life aren't from anything that was taught. It was something that I remember growing up and like kind of learning as I go. but have stuck with me in such a way that it's like it's almost confusing, because I am highly moralistic about a lot of things, but it's not. There's no easy answer. I think it's like it's there. I just think it's revealed to you how much is there, and like the knowledge is already there. It's just like when you're actually aware of it.
Yeah.
I don't think you really get an option whether or not, like, you don't get an option to be who you are. You are who you are for a reason.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, we're definitely gonna go into that later, but we gotta finish this. Okay, we're moving on to rapid fires.
Rapid fire, got it.
What is your favorite movie quote?
I'll be back. It actually isn't that, but it's the only one I can think of. It's probably live long and prosper.
Oh,
there we go. Much better.
Call somebody out by name. Who should come see this show?
I'm going to call up my friend Jessica Tovey and Trenton Ackerman, who I would just like spent a party with talking about it, and they said they would come, so I'm going to make sure that they come.
Holding them accountable on the internet.
They love it. We had a good night.
What was your favorite toy growing up?
Dinosaurs. I think I had a Velociraptor toy that I don't know where. I mean, it got left behind when we moved, but I loved that thing. It would attack all the Barbies. I love them.
If you had to pick a new name for yourself, what would you pick?
Probably Lyra, because that's my biological father's name mixed up. His name was Earl, and that was one of the possible names that I was going to have. The other possibility was Solomon, and it's a little bit better than Solomon, so. Or Nexus, I think was like. It was like.
You've been a cool Solomon, though.
I mean, I would have been a cool Solomon. I would have been the cool girl with the dude name. I would have totally rocked it, but Solomon's a long name, and my name is already long.
What would you do for fun on Mars?
Be a vet.
Full circle.
Full circle. Gotta be full circle. Gotta finish it.
What is your favorite Halloween costume?
Oh gosh, I had so many because it's my favorite. I was Vampire Gabrielle from Xena, and that was probably one of my favorites.
Look at you go.
Oh gosh, Xena and that Hercules show from the 90s was
man.
best. I was also a princess and rode a unicorn. That was also a really good one. And I was Batman. There's a lot of good ones. There's a great picture of me scaring my brother when I was Batman.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was at the end of the hall, cape up.
Oh, I need to see
lightning.
that.
I think we have it. It may have been lost.
What personality trait of yours has gotten you in trouble?
My kindness.
Which world in The Nightmare Before Christmas would you choose?
Halloween Town. Are you kidding? They had
Heck
the coolest.
yeah.
They had like the coolest look overall.
Do you think cats have any regrets?
Never.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's why I love them.
All right, we're adding some bonus would you rathers.
Oh, would we rather? Got it. Oh, goodness.
Would you rather never brush your teeth or your hair?
I'll just say never brush my hair because I would just shave it off because my grouty teeth is really bad. I hate it.
Yeah. Would you rather read novels or watch movies?
Probably watch movies. I like books, but sometimes I write and type and do so much writing. I just don't like to read anymore, and I read a lot of scripts.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Cake or pie?
Cake without icing, but I have made some really good pies recently. So their pies are rising. I taught myself how to make pies from scratch, including the dough. So they're growing on my list.
The big one, Coke or Pepsi?
I don't drink soda. I mean, I had a soda tonight, yes.
Yeah, you did.
But I don't drink soda. This is like a really rare occasion.
Okay, so you're in the desert, and there's a Coke in front of you and a Pepsi in front of you, and you have to pick one.
Neither is going to actually make me hydrated. Shh. Like, what did I drink before I stopped drinking Coke or Pepsi?
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Did Pepsi have the lime? Was that Pepsi? With like the twist of lime?
Maybe.
I think I liked that one the best. So I'd have to go with Pepsi because they had Pepsi taste. No, but Coke had that. No, it's Pepsi. It's always been Pepsi because of they had that lemon and lime twist, and that was the only time I liked it. But Coke was better from the fountain.
Yes.
So I would say Pepsi I drank overall more often if I was going to buy it, but if it was like a fountain, I'd be fine with Coke.
Would you rather see a Sasquatch or a Yeti?
A Yeti. I think they're cuter.
They're cuter.
Sasquatch is just a big hairy dude, and that's okay. I'm good. There's enough of
plenty
them.
of those.
Yeah, there's enough of them.
Would you rather meet a vampire or a werewolf?
Vampire. Vampires are so much cooler. Hello,
Yes.
Anne Rice.
She wouldn't let me make the question, would you rather be a vampire or werewolf? She goes, I'm not going to ask people to be weird things.
I didn't say weird things. It just
vampire all the way. Like Anne Rice, like before Edward.
Yeah. Edward who?
Edward
Please.
who?
Kiefer Sutherland. Let's talk about him.
Yes.
Favorite movie of all time.
I still watch Queen of the Damned. I still love that movie.
There's someone she died, right? Before it came out?
Yeah, it's with what's the name of that singer? Aaliyah. Aaliyah was Akasha, and it's awesome because even Stuart Townsend plays Lestat, and it was like right after like a revamp. No, it's really 90s, but it was like a revamp of like Brad Pitt's and Tom Cruise's, which I still think that's one of their best movies, was The Interview with the Vampire. That's a great vampire movie.
That, honestly, that should tell you what kind of child I was, because for Christmas one year, my uncle got me, I was like maybe 6.
Yeah.
He got me Interview with the Vampire and The Lost Boys, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And now The Lost Boys has always been my favorite movie.
No, I didn't get quite into The Lost Boys as much, but I should rewatch it because I did like it. I watched it.
Yeah.
But I was definitely more of like Interview with the Vampires. I was always for like those like fancy pants. Like
no, I was the bad boys.
you're bad boys.
I still have a crush on Kiefer Sutherland. I would die for that man.
That's amazing.
Biggest celebrity crush right there, Kiefer Sutherland. Oh
See, mine is Christopher Maloney from Law and Order SVU. That has been the longest.
I don't see how everyone's isn't.
Oh my
Kiefer
gosh!
Sutherland. I'm like,
wait! I forgot even like my biggest. Like I loved True Blood when it was still good.
Yeah.
Still love True Blood when it was good.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't watch that one.
What?
I was too young for that one. I didn't get it.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, I
because
probably would like it now.
It is campy. If you like camp, True Blood, all the way.
Would you rather be chased by 5 zombies or 1 werewolf?
5 zombies.
And we're talking classic zombies.
Okay, yeah, zombies, because like you can at least kill those things. I'm not going after a werewolf.
Yeah,
I'm like, nah.
Those things are smarter than... nope.
Have you seen Werewolf in London?
Oh.
Jack Nicholson?
Would you rather be a ghost or be haunted by a ghost?
You know, after watching Haunting of Hill House, I think I'd much rather be a ghost.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, it's a good show, but I think I'd rather be the ghost. Because
Yeah.
I think I'd be I'd be a pretty chill ghost. I'd be like more of like your like nostalgia ghost. Every once in a while you'd piss me off, but...
Have you seen the episode of Ghost Adventures where the main guy's like trying to provoke
I love
the
Ghost
spirit,
Adventures, yeah.
And they're like recording. And he's trying to provoke the spirit and he goes, "Whoever you are, come out now." And the ghost goes, "Do I have to?" And that's me.
I do remember that one. I do. I see. I would be the one that would just play like a lot of cruel jokes, but at the time, it's like I'm a mischievous ghost.
I feel like I would just say boo all the time just to be ironic.
Yeah, I'd just be mischievous. I'd be like, "Is that you doing that thing?" I'm like, "Absolutely." You kidding?
You betcha, Karen.
You betcha.
Okay, and the last one: would you rather be hot all the time or cold all the time?
Cold. All the time. I hate being hot.
For sure. Wow, love that we're the same person.
Yeah, I hate them.
Okay, your final 3 questions. The big 3.
Oh, the big 3, finally.
What is your best advice for other actors or other stage managers, since you're more into that than acting?
Just the best advice for anyone that's working in theater is that mistakes are okay. It's a part of the process, I guess. I think a lot of people freak out during auditions or during something because they're afraid of making a mistake, but you know, most positive results or most ideas are results of mistakes. Look at how much medicine was supposed to be treating something else that actually treats something else. Like seriously, I mean, it is more medicine is discovered out of like mistake than out of knowing exactly what it was supposed to do.
What would you tell the 10-year-old version of Olivia?
It is okay being different. It's okay. You should thrive in it a little bit more. It's okay. It's going to be what makes you special. So just, I mean, I don't think I could have chilled out. I think it's like, it gets better would probably be the best. Like, it does get better eventually. Just keep just doing you.
Keep on trucking.
Maybe focus a little bit more in school instead of relying on just knowing things. Just being good at things. Try a little harder. Be less scared.
If you knew that you could do something without fail, what would you choose to do?
Fly, because I would always love to fly, and if I knew I wasn't going to fall, it'd be fun. I'll be that one person. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things like world peace and all that jazz. And I mean, I think all the things that I would like to do are actually very possible with a little bit of hard work. And so I'm going to pick the thing I know I can't do, which is flying, which is something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that was a good long talk.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I don't talk that much.
2 hours and 3 minutes.
2 hours, 3 minutes.
Wow, take that, Matt Adams.
It wasn't a contest. I wasn't trying. No.
Well, thank you for being on Getting Real with us.
Thank you for having me. No, now everyone will actually know I do actually talk quite a bit. I think most people go like, shouldn't talk a lot. My voice is kind of hoarse. This is a lot of talking. But thank you. It's been fun.
Special thanks to Olivia Plath and to the sponsors of our show, Eminence McDonald's and the bookstore at the Berry Center. Our Frankenstein interviews continue next week. This episode of Getting Real was executive produced, edited, and written by me, Ashley Raymer-Brown.
It was produced and co-written by me, Bree Heightchew.
Music was provided by Final Cut Pro, and artwork was created by Ashley Raymer-Brown. That's me, and Bree Heightchew.
That's me.
Getting Real is a separate entity from the Theatre Downstream. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Theatre Downstream or the sponsors of their shows. Thanks for listening.